Keeping the oil industry going. All right, should we get going?
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Draft Chat 2. I'm Dale Beefus.
I'm Terry Bailey, and here at Alberta Carriage Supply, we spend our time building wheels,
Driving horses,
selling harness,
farming with horses,
and repairing and restoring horse-drawn vehicles and equipment.
and then in our, we've been running Alberta Carriage Supply for about 25 years now, and been driving horses ahead of that. And the one thing we learned is that we're all just learning. And as soon as you think you know everything, you'll be smacked down and taught a lesson. So that's why we're doing these. We thought we would build some community and connect draft horse people around the world, and then explore some new ways of doing things, because there's always new ways and different things that fit at different times.
Yep. And this is being recorded and will be posted on the website. So if you want access to it, go to the website and subscribe. That's at albertacarriagesupply.net.
That's pretty good. He's learning. I put it in abbreviations, acs.net, and I thought that's where I was going to be, but no, it's good.
Yeah.
All right. So we do have a bit of an agenda, but we hope to be question driven.
And when you're asking questions, please do it in chat. One question that we had at our
we kind of wanted to go back to draft chat 1. We had two items we wanted to talk about. One that bugged Terry, so he can do that one.
Yeah, and it was someone had asked, how far ahead of the whiffletree should a horse be? Like a single horse when you're hooking to shafts. And the short answer, or half the answer, was about 15 inches. But the other part of the answer, you want the shaft tips at the point of the horse's shoulders. And then you want 15 inches at the back. So if you got 15 inches, but your tips aren't that far forward, then you should maybe look at getting a bigger set of shafts.
Yeah, and the 15 inches isn't a set.
No, it's not hammered in stone.
If you were 13 inches or whatever, it's more important the tip of the shaft be at the point of the shoulder.
Yeah.
That's where you start. So that's where you put it, and then adjust your harness from there, kind of thing is where we were.
Yep.
And then after the chat, we had a friend of ours, Dave Clough, said, he's helped some old leather. He would soak it in water
For a couple of days.
Yeah, and then let it dry and then oil it. Linseed oil and it's gone out of my
Neat's foot
oil. As
And
it's drying and let it.
Yeah, you have to start applying it before it's totally dry.
Yeah. And he said he's had good luck with it. And we both know Dave, and he's a good man, and he would have done it, and it worked for him. On the other side, we have the Amish, who say you can't bring back the dead. And I think the truth is somewhere in between there. It depends on how dead it is, if you will, like how dried and rotted it is, how good the quality of leather is.
Yep.
All those pieces that go together to either make it work and bring it back or not. Down in Amish land, the harness shops literally have tanks of heated neat's foot oil, and then you take all your harness in and they literally soak it and then let it drip out, kind of thing, every year. So there's some truth to it, but Dave wanted to share that with everybody and give it a go. Obviously we sell harness, and I would think that sometimes spending a little bit of money and not having a problem is worth more, but you can't always do that. So we just wanted to hit on those two. If there's any comments, just please type them into the chat, and Roz will read them out for us.
Yep.
Comments or questions, and we'll take it from there.
Do you want me to tell you questions as they come in, or do you want to? Okay, so Christine asked, can you talk about how you go about introducing horses to clangy, rattly farm equipment for the first time?
Yes. We'll get there in a half a second. I think kind of towards the end of our talk, we're on that. And if you would just hold that question for a bit, Roz, and then we'll get there as we go through our talk here.
So we want to talk about getting workhorses ready for spring work.
Yeah, and define a workhorse, right? It could be anything from a Percheron or a Belgian to a Shetland to a Mini. If it's pulling something to that, it's working.
Yeah.
It's in draft, and I struggled with this pretty heavily, and I kind of come to the point where a good workhorse is a horse who gives himself to the teamster, and so that trust and faith that horse has in his teamster, not to hurt him and not to get him into somewhere he can't get out of. And when they do that, you can tell it. And we can, we've had 30 some horses show up at the bar and you can tell which ones are workhorses and which ones, have been used.
Or not.
Yeah, which ones have been used for parade and that kind of stuff. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But a workhorse, we put 16 together and inevitably something comes undone, and somebody, it's never me, has to go in between all of them and fix the chain or the hitch or whatever is wrong kind of thing. And with a good workhorse, that's never an issue because they just stop and they're happy and they know that you're going to look after them and they just don't have that fear. So being a horseman or a horse person or a horse woman or horse gender non-specified, the trick is knowing your horse, is working with them enough that when you're getting to those limits and when they're either not comfortable or you're almost to that breaking point. And as training them goes.
Yeah, they all have little tells. Hey.
Yeah. So
like Pete does that thing with his tail.
Yeah, as soon as you see Peter's tail start to twitch, you can tell he's uncomfortable. And whether it's a drone flying or whatever, he just has his sign. And so it's getting to know your horses, and they're all different personalities. Every horse we've had has been different. And it's just getting to know them and working with them and doing it. Now, as we go through and we're talking working horses and to the point of getting them used to clangy, bangy stuff, there is some fantastic opportunities to get injured and ruin your horses. So
this is where I tell the 4-wide story. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and we'll be anonymous.
So back in the day when we were just getting started, we decided we were going to go out and harrow the hayfield. And we thought, we'll put 4 together, 4 abreast. So we hooked them up to the 4-cart. We had the pasture harrows on. We dug this 4-wide evener out. I don't know where it came from, but it had seen better days. And Dale was driving the team, and I was holding the second set of lines just to kind of keep them up out of the way. We made one circuit of the field, started the second circuit, and all of a sudden, the seat of the 4-cart tipped forward. And I thought, what the heck's going on? And I looked, and here the pole had come out of the ring on the neck yoke, and it was snaking through the grass between the horses. I managed to point and say, hey, and one of the horses stepped on it. The cart stopped. The evener broke. The single trees hit them in the heels, and they were gone. And they were taking us with them. And we made one step, 12 feet long?
Yeah.
We were past the end of the pole when we touched down. We hit the ground, yelled, whoa, and it all stopped.
And that's when you know there is such a thing as a God.
Yes. Yeah.
So there was a number of things that we did wrong there, right? And kind of part of what we're going to get into now is equipment and stuff. And I have here Runaways, and I believe it's my firm belief, and scientifically it's been proven, when a team of horses or a horse runs away, and a true runaway, like, and, I'll admit, I've had too many of them. But that gets bolted into that horse's memory and it never leaves. There's nothing you can do to take that memory out of that horse. So when those circumstances happen again, that horse is going to run. That's been how they survived forever. If a lion was chasing them and they heard the name, or a bear or a clang or whatever sets them off, when that happens again, they're going to run.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight, exactly right. So if you really like your horses, it's really important as the human being and the teamster, we do everything to make sure runaways don't happen.
Yeah.
And, still go out with a mower with Hank and Pete, and it starts chattering away in the grass and the pull is there and Hank likes to get going kind of thing, but that's not a runaway. Like runaways are, they just run. And
Yeah.
I keep going back to the story at Chestermere Lake. There was a horse pull and fella's team ran away, ran through the gate at the end of the arena, hit a truck full on, flipped over the whole truck, like smashed into it, flipped over the truck and ended up on the other side. That's a runaway. Like they don't stop, doesn't matter what's in their way or anything. And that team, would you trust it to stand between it and 16 other horses? I wouldn't. And it's not the horse's fault, it's the team's fault. So whatever you have to do, prevent a runaway.
Big thing.
Okay, Vanna.
Pay attention.
Yep. So we're not quite to the jingle jangle message yet. We're kind of talking about all the things that can go wrong. So before we even start, we want to make sure our horses are in condition. We need to look at them, make sure that they're fed well enough. And typically our Western Canadian horses are overfed, so they're typically too fat. But make sure they have, their feet are trimmed and not chipped up. No feet, no horse. Vaccinations and warming are all up to snuff.
Yep. Yeah, you also want to check your harness. You want to look for wear points, tears, breaks, or cuts, bent or broken buckles, and make sure that everything is there, like quarter straps and breast straps and martingales and all that stuff. Because we do borrow stuff from time to time, and I'll put that back when I'm done, and then it never happens.
Yeah.
And then you're there.
Check your double trees, neck yokes, single trees, pins, safety pins. Make sure it's all there. Make sure it's the right one. Make sure it fits. It's long enough and isn't going to come out on you.
And go through your vehicles and implements. Make sure all the nuts and bolts are tight. Check the tires. That's pretty obvious. And grease it. Grease fittings are there for a reason. So.
Yep. And sometimes it's the steering that seizes up. Like
Yeah.
we had that one Pioneer gear that just got tight, just needs some grease and some time, and
Yeah.
it was good again. But better you find out before you hook your horses to it than after, because then everything gets bent and broken and out of the way. So again, you do all that to kind of avoid runaways. Like the price of good horses far outweighs a few dollars you're going to save in grease or time or anything else. So, and I think, in the horse world, there's very few rules that you can say is firm, because there's well, yeah, but what about when or if and that. But I think the one rule that's there, when you're gonna go out and drive your horses and start to condition them, have a plan. Like think about it a little bit, and one of the advantages that Terry and I have had is we can talk to each other. Doesn't have to be an elaborate plan, but okay, today let's go out and Harrow, because there's a bunch of turds and we need to get that pasture cleaned up so we can put horses in there soon or whatever. And if you don't have it, Terry, talk to your horse, but just plan what you're going to do, because if you're planning what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do, and you can make sure the equipment's right and everything's there for you, and you go out and it's a pleasurable experience kind of thing. So you can go
and you get something done, right?
Yes. Yep. The other half is they get strong and in condition really quick. Like, if you drove them every night, for a week or whatever and put in some good hours on them, it's amazing how fast they change.
Yeah.
So while you're making your plan, you need to understand that you can't come home, go for a 15-minute drive and then put them away and think that you've conditioned them. Like it's important that as a teamster, you're looking what your horses need and then giving them that as the exercise. So part of that plan is, okay, I'm gonna, I'm gonna get harnessed up in that, and then I'm gonna be out there at least an hour and a half driving, like steady
Yeah,
kind of thing. So
take your watch off.
Vanna. Yeah, that's good. Like they work on their own schedule.
And being a teamster means knowing your team. Just like we were talking about the little tells that they have, you can tell where their mindset is. And when you're starting to work them, start with easier loads, but you still want enough to tire them out. Like you don't want to kill them, but you want to make sure that they're working.
You can pull an empty wagon around and be out there for hours and you're never going to tire them out. Like
No.
they're made to work. They're like weightlifters,
Mhm.
runners. And so they need that kind of work. And that's why we always start either with a stone boat, we'll go picking rocks or whatever,
Yeah.
finding garbage in the fields or whatever, but it's just a nice drag steady on them and away they go. And then from there, we go up to a four-cart and start pulling some Harrows behind, and you can adjust how many Harrows you have, whether it's one horse or two or three or four, or whatever you're hooking up, but give them enough load that you can take them on through that. I was going to talk about muscle tired too, wasn't I?
Mhm.
So
There's no red brackets.
there's no red bracket, so
Yeah.
it's all mine. And Roz put her hand up.
So we have two questions. One of them is specific to the Harrows. If you have to pick one set of Harrows to cover as many farm chores as possible, what's your go-to?
Field Harrows.
Like a chain hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
PB Mart makes them. They just have, like, they're not the rigid point ones.
Yeah.
Like I call those field Harrows, and then pasture Harrows are more like chain or whatever. And they were great because you can go out and
They kind of hug the ground,
yeah,
like they follow the contours.
and they knock over the horse lumps, right?
Yeah.
That the horses have put there, or cows or whatever, all winter long, spreads it out. Because horses, there'll be a clump of crap and long grass all around it. And you think, oh, they'll eat it, but it actually makes the grass sour.
Yeah.
So that's why they won't eat it. So
And Bob asks, there's talk about Belgians and Clydes, but does anybody have experience with Suffolk Punch? My last team was 28 years ago, but I'm only an amateur teamster, but I found the Suffolk a very gentle horse to work with.
we've had everything. We have not had Suffolk Punches.
No.
The biggest difference between breeds is the guy behind them.
Yeah.
So I don't care what you give me, if they've had a good teamster and good training behind them, they're just as good. And there was a time, and I still will, if I get enough Ruperts in me, I'll tease people about different breeds, just like Chevy and Ford and that.
Hmm.
But the reality is the best team is the best trained team. Like they're long-legged and they can do it.
Thank you.
So where we use the term muscle tired. And so when you have these animals and you're out there and you're pulling that load, you want to get them to a point where they're tired and they're sweaty, but not puffing, kind of like a weightlifter workout. Like you're heavy into it, you work your muscles, you're just dead tired. And then you take them past that point. So they're going to want to stop, which is nice. Like, you're getting close. And then you take them further. You don't let them quit until you say the word, whoa.
It's got to be your idea.
Yeah. And then they stop. And that's their resting place. And out of all the things we've done, we've made whoa the best place for our horses.
Yeah.
No tension on them. There's nobody on their faces or whatever. If you stop and they're kind of still dancing in that, just go. Just keep going and don't stop until they stop for that whoa. And it's a matter of time and energy. It's like just burning them out kind of thing. But when they get to the point where they just stop and they're happy to stand there, you've reached the point of whoa. Like the ye or g of woe or hard g of woe. I'll get all the terms in there and screw everything up. So, but that's where you need to get a workhorse, and that's how you make a workhorse. And if you can get your workhorse to that point, now I'm off on a tangent, but I'm just going to keep going because this kind of answers Christine's question. So I wouldn't, just put all kind of noising and clanging and banging to a new team of horses kind of thing. But if you've been harrowing with them, we use harrowing, but whatever you're doing with them and you're working them down and you've got them muscle tired, they're more accepting of it and they'll trust you more. And the noises are going to be there. The harrows are noisy and they clank and run over some stuff. And I think it's a pretty simple, easy, natural progression. I know some people like to flag horses and that, like saddle horses and, and try and get them to calm down. I think that muscle tired, and I'll use the example, Brett. First time they came to BarU, young man, decent horses, but just go. There was no standing them. He just and raring and going and uneven and so to plow or do any of that kind of work, it wasn't possible. But smart young man, he's watching and talking and listening and stuff. He came back the next year. His horses were amazing. And he got him muscle tired. And that was the thing. Like he learned that you can actually work a horse and take them down and get them to the point where they're tired and they love that whoa. And then it's amazing how they change. So I hope that 400-hour answer to a short question, but
So-
that's an important question.
So the short answer, make them tired first.
Yeah, make them good and tired.
Right on. And then as they get into shape, expand what you do with them.
Yeah, well, you're on your red. Just because I went off on my tangent and took over the whole show there.
Well, you
I'm
did
not
the
done yet.
Hero
I'm not
Bastards.
done.
Okay. I'll wait. I'll have a sip.
So sometimes it's hard to figure out what to do to get your horses muscle tired, and depending on where you are, pull a log, pick rocks, harrow your pastures, get we have a
Broadcast.
broadcast spreader we pull behind and we'll put in a couple 1.5 tons, I think it holds, of fertilizer, and we'll go fertilize our pastures and stuff. It's anywhere you're using your tractor or whatever, just figure out how you can use your horse, because that's how it was done beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're at the red bracket. You can.
Oh, yeah. So expand what you do. So you're using a stone boat to go up and pick rocks, use it for moving firewood.
Yeah.
Try skidding logs with them. Just the more you can do, saves you in fuel, especially now at $1.79 a liter. And it's better for them because the more you do with them, they get used to things, and you're just not going to have any problems
With them. Yep. So are we on red or on your stuff now?
Well, is this you now camping?
This is me. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're fortunate in where we live, that we can take our horses and a wagon and go into the backcountry. And having a good woe on them is so important, because there's so many times you get into stuff and different driving and that. Like it's good. It's good for the horses. It's nice to go camping. And taking a wagon out, when we were 14, we used to hike and squirt out just about all your toothpaste. So you just take a little bit and freeze dried food and, maybe a little bit of something special like a beer, because you had to pack it all in. And then we started going in with pack horses, and that was kind of nice. Like
You can take a little more. Yeah.
Yeah. You take some eggs and a bottle of whiskey and whatnot. But taking a wagon in, you can have a nice bed and nice meal, and so it's
The ladies can take their eyelash curlers.
Ladies can take their eyelash curlers, yes. Yeah, so there's all kinds of things. And I think a lot of these places exist. We just don't ask and see where we can take a team and wagon kind of thing.
And food for your horses.
And food for your horses, yeah, yeah. Sometimes you get up into that backcountry and there isn't a lot of tall grass, so you can haul in some hay and that.
Take some oats.
Yep, yeah, alfalfa cubes. So Stampede, Calgary Stampede is planning on like being a full stampede. So there's lots of opportunities there for driving people. If you're interested, you email us or Instagram us or whatever it is people do to communicate. Selena will make some connections for you. Give you some names you can call and get there. Pioneer Acres is the weekend after the long weekend in August. And there's always lots of draft horses there as well.
It says Big Finish. Are we done?
This is where we do the soft shoe and hat and.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
You've got a cane. I don't have a cane.
Yeah. What can I say?
And we're only halfway through, so we need some questions, people. I will do a little bit of Alberta Carriage Supply advertising. So our basic driving clinic is May the 7th. And that's for people who have a horse, some horse sense, but have not driven before. And we go through and talk about harness and the basics of going it. We've been doing that for 20 some years kind of thing. And we're getting close to full. So if you know somebody who's interested, have them get a hold. This year, we're also doing a next step clinic. And that's kind of putting your horses to work. And what it takes, and we start to get into some of the science of it and some of the equipment we're going to hook up to and that kind of thing. So we'll be driving 3s and 4s and some different weird equipment. Why is Roz laughing?
Brad asks, where are the best places to go in the backcountry?
Wherever Brad says to go. So we've, he's bringing up other stories here. So we'll get there in 1 second, Brad, and that's a good question. Thank you. And then May 15th, you can join us. We're going to be doing some field work. So getting ready to seed our crops for Eau Claire Distillery so we can have more whiskey next year. And you can bring your horses out and join us and can have a look and see where you are and help you out and maybe get you hooked up and you can give a try to some of the other stuff, right?
Yep.
And then we have here jobs. So we're looking for a young person to come in kind of, I don't know, end of every week, Saturday or on a Friday or whatever, and clean and put away and empty garbages and sweep floors and help us out in that. And we also need a full-time guy, kind of, we need another Terry kind of thing. Someone who can work with wood and metal and weld and drill and cut and make wheels and that kind of thing, because we're starting to make stone boats, an Alberta Carriage Supply one, and fork carts.
Yep.
So those will be hitting the market next couple months, kind of thing. Stone boats will be right away, and then fork carts are coming. You know, we tried to buy them. Pioneer makes a great fork cart. But they're in US dollars and US freight and on and on and on. And their steel prices have just skyrocketed. So they got too expensive. We tried to get some made in China and the freight was terrible and didn't really like the product that we were getting. It was fine, just didn't have just the panache or the look or whatever we were after. So we just decided we would make them ourselves. So that's where we are.
And we have a prototype done.
And we have a prototype done. We've been out testing and stuff.
It's too bad we couldn't show them.
And we haven't pulled it apart yet.
Yep. We keep trying. So where to go? So we have forever, we would go west of Longview, I think it's Highway 941, and then it turns into Highway 40, and all along there's Cat Creek and Strawberry and Loomis. You can go south, Barrel Creek.
Yeah, Barrel Creek, Etherington Creek.
Yep, and the Alberta government actually has staging areas and places you can put it there. That part of the country, though, there is no washrooms, no trail signage. You're in the backcountry, that kind of thing.
And what about the park or the campsite that Brad goes to?
Yep, and then you can come on this side. What's the name of it, Brad?
He's muted.
You can unmute Brad. Unmute
There, I
Brad.
just unmuted myself.
That's
Yeah,
Romulus, isn't it?
Sorry?
Little Elbow and Mount Romulus Trail, yeah. Can you hear me?
Little Elbow Romulus Trail.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
And the Alberta government will have gates on them and that, but if you ask them, they'll make arrangements to have the gates open for you or give you the combination.
We've gone several times and it's very cool.
Yeah. I know that's kind of Brad's favorite area. It's about a 3-hour drive in. It's a nice drive and you take your time and have some wobbly pops and yeah, it's quite.
And they have hitching posts for horses and
And they have washroom facilities in there, right?
That's right. Yeah. So your horses can have a nice poop and,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like one range over. And the government has developed it. So they have nice spaces for your tent or your wagon. They have hitching rails for your horses. They have washrooms and fire pits and it's pretty nice camping. And you're right beside a river way into the backcountry. So it's pretty nice to do.
And it'll give you a real variety of ground to drive.
To drive over. Yeah.
So you'll really hone your skills as a teamster.
Jeff asks, could you repeat what you mentioned about Calgary Stampede and the other event after Stampede?
Okay, so Calgary Stampede is full on, like we plan to put on a full stampede this year, so all events, all the committees are going like crazy trying to get stuff done. And in a lot of cases, they're looking for volunteers to help out, so Draft Horse Town, the heavy horse show people, light horse people, so if you have an area there that you'd like to help in, let us know and we'll just we'll make the connections for you and then you can talk to them and see what the commitments and stuff is there. Pioneer Acres is just north of us here. So kind of northeast of Calgary, little town called Uricana. And they started off as a tractor club. And they still are kind of a tractor club, but they let us horse people go up there as well because we were the precursor. And so they do some plowing and they put on a parade and hook up different equipment and that kind of thing. And they welcome new people and new horses. So.
And when is that?
That's the weekend after the long weekend in August.
Okay.
So it runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Kevin asked, how is the Bayou looking this year?
We're not going back to the Bayou this year for the first time in a long time. We're gonna farm closer to home here. It's too long a haul. Like it got to be too much. And with COVID and not being able to stay there and having to drive, it just uncomfortable. So we're hoping that we're gonna farm right close here. Our equipment's here, our horses are here. We'll be able to do some tours through for people and talk about the differences of horse farming and modern farming and that kind of thing. So yeah, no Bayou, I'm afraid.
Christine says, skidding logs out of the bush. Where do you start and how do you learn? I'm familiar with log skidding at the fair, but it's not the same, obviously. I semi-frequently get messages from random folks asking me to bring my horse to help with some selective logging. And I'd love to be able to say yes if my horse and I knew what we were doing.
I think if you're driving your horse, Christine, you'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
We go out to Brad's place and haul logs out. It's not a log skidding competition, but you figure it out pretty quick. Like it's not.
So you use chains instead of.
Yep. Yes, there's Roz helping us out here.
Yeah.
Trying to give you a much better answer, Christine.
Well, it's basically the same as skidding at a fair, except the terrain is going to be up and down. right?
Yep, and you're pulling it around, so, you know, it's your teamster skill and your ability of your horse.
Just-
Set eveners,
Just make sure you're on the uphill side of the log.
set eveners and a chain, you know, and just wrap the log and put a choke on it, and sometimes you're close, sometimes you're far, and you know, depending on where the log is, sometimes you've got to pull it a bit and then rechain and pull it a bit and rechain and then go. And it's fun. Like it's a good job for a teamster, and you get to be really close with your horse. So,
Mhm. It's good for them.
yep,
You know?
yep, absolutely. Is that a good enough answer?
Thank you.
Now we got to thank you.
No other questions?
All right, guys are letting us off easy here.
I'm just trying to think, do we have equipment that we can show them?
We had some discussion about checks, over checks and side checks.
Yes. Are you just trying to poke the bear? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah. I know it'll get you going.
Like I need help. So we have a picture on our website of, I think it was Shelley and Nellie or Hank and Pete, whoever, advertise their harness. And the harness comes with side checks. So we had the side checks on so you can see what you get. Somebody took offense to that because checks are bad and evil and on and on. And then they went into it, you know, disparaging remarks about smaller horses. So I just blocked them. Like we don't need that. We're a small community that needs to help each other out, not put any part or sect or whatever down. And if you choose not to use checks, or you choose to use checks, that's you and your horses.
Yep.
You have to make that decision. So do we use checks? No. Do we use them on our standard breds and that just want to get out and run?
Mhm.
Yes, we do. There's a time and a place for everything, and deciding it. There isn't a rule that you can just say, anybody uses checks as being cruel or whatever. It's not true.
Yeah.
There's a place for them. They've been there forever. So that's where we are. I didn't cuss when I said any of that either.
You
No
did-
for a letter.
You did really well.
So,
I'm impressed. You must be on your medication.
Do you want to show them what the side checks are on the bridle in case some of our
I
viewers
think-
don't know?
I think we're all good. They can go to the website and see what they're, because it's, you know, you hold out a line and
Fair enough.
it doesn't mean anything if it's not on a horse.
So perhaps for the next chat, we can be be down in the shop and show some equipment.
Yes, yes. So come fall, when we have our next chat, we'll, and even we could have some pictures and Roz could be putting them up as we're talking about them. So that's where we are.
Okay.
I don't know. Should we tell stories?
No, we can give people back 20 minutes.
Dangerous backcountry trips?
If there are no, Jeff asks, what do you feed your horses when they're in off season versus when you're working them on a regular basis? Any tips to modifying how you're feeding them compared to the work they're doing?
Yeah, good question, Jeff. So wintertime, we try and let our horses pick as much as possible. And so we have the advantage of large fields that they can go out and clean up after the combines and stuff. When we're feeding them, we're kind of giving them lower quality hay, not moldy hay or dirty or anything. It just doesn't have super high food value in it.
It's not hot.
Yeah, like they're putting it through them and that's what keeps them warm, but they're not doing anything, so they're not burning a lot of calories.
Yeah.
As we start to get into spring, we get green grass, they get green grass, but if you're working them hard, you're gonna have to grain them to greens or oils to get the energy into them to keep it up, because they will just drop weight like, 100 pounds in a day if you're working them hard. Like it's phenomenal. I don't know if that helps you out or not. There's all kinds of supplements and oils you can put in. We had healthy coat. That's the easiest kind of thing because you can just put it on some grain and they'll eat it. But they only go so long and then they seem to, okay, we don't want oil anymore.
Yeah. And as long as the fields are clear, that's what they're doing, is pecking. But when the snow hits and there's a good snow cover and it's hard for them, then we ramp up how much hay we're giving them.
Yeah, and so we're in that situation, but if you're, you know, you have a small acreage or whatever, and you can't do that, then it's the tough job of moderating how much feed.
Mhm.
And when it's cold, you want to feed them more so they can stay warm, but you don't want them to get fat. So
Yeah.
feeding them more of lesser quality, even sometimes we'll throw in some straw,
Mhm.
just so they got material going through them, and it seems to keep them warm. And I should, so in Ohio and that, our Amish friends, we bought a team from them, Shelly and Nellie, and we hadn't even seen them. So there was a dealer conference and I flew down and went to the conference, and then it's dark out, and he said, "Oh, you want to see your team of horses?" And I said, "Oh, sure, why not?" So they had to start a generator because they have a light bulb in the barn. And I'm walking through the barn and I'm like, what's wrong with all these horses? Like, they just looked funny, you know? And then what it was is I was looking at horses that were fed the right amount, worked hard, and like they weren't fed any extra. So they were skinny horses. And I'm just so used to looking at fat horses
Mhm.
that it just, the difference was phenomenal kind of thing.
And they were fit.
Oh, they were absolutely fit. I mean, they got all they needed, but not one kernel more. And they're not out picking, like they work and they're in a stall. They work and then they're in a stall. So it's a balance and finding the right feed mixture and stuff. And if they're working hard, their plow days and stuff, they're getting good hot food, lots of grain, a nice hay to push it through.
Yep.
Christine asked, what do you look for when you're buying a new team?
Oh,
Something that stands.
yeah. Yeah, you know, that's so hard. And I don't want to be disparaging about some people, but you really gotta figure out what you're gonna do with them. So, you know, is it gonna be a wagon team? Is it gonna be a pulling team? Or do you want an actual work animal kind of thing? And then talk to them, because I don't know if it was, we were both out there or not, but this guy was, "Oh, I got this young team. Every day I hook them up and they run away on me. But I got them fixed up, you know, and we do it. But every day they run away." You don't want that, right? So that's what they know. That's what they've learned. So it's asking them and seeing whether they've been, you know, well humanized, so that they're happy being around people and not shy. Because if they've been out, you know, and kind of running wild too long, like, yeah, you got a lot of work ahead of you kind of thing. So good feet, you know, make it the team for what you want to do with them. So how big, how tall, how heavy, that all plays into there.
And when you go to look at them, you should harness them.
Yeah, I would take them home, you know, like 30-day, like you post date the check for 30 days. Because then you're not worried about them being drugged and finding out that they got a limp or
show up a half hour early.
Yeah, you see them out there exercising them,
Yeah.
you know, trying to get them
In the
worked out.
neck.
So those are the bad things that can go wrong, but there's a lot of good horse people out there kind of thing. And just, yeah, if you're gonna buy a team, buy a good team, because you'll do more, you'll use them more. We have a fellow who, you know, we paid $15,000 for one team, and he was, "Oh yeah, I've never paid that. $3,000 is all I ever paid." But he's only driven Volkswagens for cars, right? He had the Runaways, he had that. He's never driven a good team. And when you have a good work team, you'll just be amazed at the stuff you can do with them.
And peace of mind is worth something.
Yeah, you're not worried.
Brad asks, how do you change over in the spring from allowing 24-hour feeding to a more regulated rate?
We'll sometimes, in our case, you want to answer this, or should I just butt in again?
No, you can butt in.
No, Terry, go.
No, you just ease them off. Like no big changes, right?
Yeah.
They gotta be little ones so that their bacteria in their gut can adjust to the new feed. Our guys, when we have green grass, we'll turn them out at night and lock them up during the day. Otherwise, they just,
Expand.
yeah,
And that seems backwards to let them out at night, lock them up during the day, but that's when they do most of the reading is at night, because that's when they're awake. A prey animal.
yeah.
Who wants to sleep in the dark when there's things out there that'll eat you.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay. So there'll be a survey.
Yes, so as soon as you hit leave,
Very good, Ross.
or I'm bored or whatever, there'll be a little survey right behind us here. We would appreciate any comments, rating of how much better I am than Terry. Like, I think there's a question about that. Who talks the most, who should talk the most. But there is a short survey. Our plan is that this will be the last chat until next fall, when the days start to get shorter and colder again, and then we'll do a series through next winter, and we'll maybe see if we can call on Lynn Miller and have him join us even electronically
Mhm.
for this, because that fellow's he's entertaining, super knowledgeable, like he's a good man. So if you would fill out the survey, be muchly appreciated.
Jeff asks, I see in the Alberta Percheron Club directory that the annual Wild Rose Draft Horse Sale is coming up on May 13th and 14th. What
Yep.
could we expect to see there? Do they sell equipment as well?
It depends on the year, really.
Yeah,
Like they sell horses, but they also sell used harness.
yes, it is a breeder's sale, so sometimes you'll see higher prices, not necessarily, if you're looking for a purebred or whatever, then I think
Yeah,
they're fair prices in that. It
it's
can,
good time. Come check it out.
yeah, I would absolutely check it out. I think we have a clinic or something on that day, or we'd be there. It's an auction sale, so, there's been 2 years of people not putting things in auctions and not going to auction. I think it'll be a big sale, and I think it'll be a good one.
Cool. And people can email and follow you on Instagram and.
Yes, yeah, follow us on Instagram and email. We are a community, and anytime you have questions or whatever, doesn't matter whether they're in a chat or not, just send them in and they'll get to us, and I promise we'll give you answers, kind of thing. And on the May 15th, when we're doing our field work, if you want to bring your horses, bring them. Let's see where they are. We can give you a hand. We will be a little fussy, because we don't want you to have a runaway, and we don't want you to have a runaway with our equipment. And so, we'll look and make sure that whatever you get hooked to, you're doing in a safe manner and stuff. So if you're just kind of worried about it for the first time, but you got some experience behind you, bring them out. And those details will be on our website as we get closer.
Cool. All right,
Is that it? Are you gonna wrap us up, Roz?
that is it.
Wrap us up, Roz? Are we
We need some outro music.
6:50, 10 minutes early? Okay, so thank you, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time with us. And the Alberta Carriage Supply singers are in the background there. But thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you for the questions. And hopefully we'll see everybody through the summer. And if not, we'll see you in a chat in the fall.
Yeah. And if you're driving by, drop in.
Yep. Where are you? Where's Christine? Can she?
I'm
Christine.
currently in Ottawa, but I will likely be moving back to BC this summer. So I will definitely drop in, possibly for the Stampede, maybe.
Beatty.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you moving your horses as well with you?
Sure am. Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're doing that drive-by kind of thing and you want to put your horses in the corral for a day or two and chill out, you're more than welcome to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So
I'll be in touch.
the invite is there. Okay.
Awesome. All right, everybody's saying thank you, great talk, thanks guys, good job, and that is all.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you in the fall.